Hi everybody, I am just trying to get some of the tech stuff set up, so just bear with me for a moment. I want to make sure if we have any comments I can see them. I apologise because the camera on my computer is just not really working very well. If anyone knows of a good webcam, then please let me know because I need to invest. So hopefully I can see the comments coming through. Today we're talking about 3 simple ways to reduce your stress without becoming a Buddhist monk. So I'm going to talk a little bit about diet, how that affects your stress levels, 3 things you can do to change your diet today, and then anything else I can hopefully fit in. Did you know that if you've been watching my posts and you belong to this group, you probably do, but did you know that changing what you eat can have a direct impact on how you handle stress? It's pretty amazing, isn't it? And I don't obviously mean that eating more kale will magically make your financial worries go away, but it can start to change how you feel about those financial worries. I'm just going to pause there because I just want to make sure that my headset, I've got a horrible feeling that my headset isn't linked. If anyone's here live, can you hear me? Let me just, it might not make a difference. You might be able to still hear me anyway, but. Okay, anyway, I'll keep going and hopefully you can still hear me. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So if any of you saw last week's video or last week's post about what stress is and how to recognize it, you know that we're really well equipped with a pretty amazing stress response that will actually help us manage difficult situations, whether that be you being in a car crash or maybe having a fight with a loved one. But we all have a limit, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of us are at our limit right now. I certainly am. Let's call this your stress load. It can also be called your allostatic load, but let's keep it simple and call it your stress load for now. Oh, great, Tanya, thank you very much. You can hear me, that's great. So I want you to think of your stress load like a backpack, okay? You pack what you need for a hike, and the lighter the load, the easier you're going to find your journey, okay? Makes sense? Now, the heavier that load gets, the slower you become, and the more you need to stop and rest. So when it gets too much, when that stress gets too much, you have no choice but to give up. Now, taking a break on a mountain hike might not sound so bad, might sound quite nice, but when we're talking about your stress load, that's when we start to see dysregulation in your inflammatory response. So what does this mean? You may have heard me talk about cortisol before, which is, yes, it's one of your stress hormones, but one of its jobs is also to regulate your inflammatory response. So again, super useful when you've twisted your ankle or you've got a cut, that inflammation starts working in the body, it gets sore and red and inflamed, and your body can actually start the healing process. But prolonged elevated levels of cortisol that you experience when you are stressed, when your stress load reaches its limit, that's when you start to see inflammation in other parts of the body and degeneration of your cells. And I don't know about you, your experience might be different, but spending the best part of a year in the same 4 walls, homeschooling, need I say more? Unable to see our friends and our family. We've got house renovations going on at the moment. We're living off one income. My husband is between jobs right now. And just generally dealing with the emotional roller coaster of having 2 children under the age of 6. I've been close to my limit a lot. Now, it's not necessarily that I feel stressed. And I say this a lot because a lot of the women I work with say, I'm fine, I'm just busy. I used to say this. Everyone's going through the same thing, I'm fine. But I know, because I've learned to read the signs, when my body is stressed. So I know that I need to press reset. I need to have a reboot because my body tells me I do. So my digestion gets a bit funky. I can feel my heart beating in my chest, which is a pretty weird sensation. I crave chocolate and wine. I know when those cravings come, you know, every day, that's when I really need to do something. My mind starts racing. I struggle to sleep. And actually, I've always been one of those really annoying people who sleeps quite well. That was kind of pre-COVID, actually. But you know what? That's just me. And understanding your specific, unique symptoms is the first step to improving your health. So if you haven't seen my free stress assessment, I will post it in the comments after this video. That will help you figure out what your specific symptoms are, because your body is trying to tell you something. So what can you do to reduce your stress load? Well, if you are not currently in a position where you can quit your job, outsource homeschooling, maybe hire a full-time housekeeper or move to Nepal to become a Buddhist monk, then one of the things you certainly can do is change your diet. Because what you eat and drink will add to or take away from your stress load. So that total amount that you can actually cope with, that limit. And they contribute either towards or healing the inflammation in your body. And food isn't the only thing, there are other stuff going on. So air pollution, water pollution, mold exposure, lack of exercise and movement, toxins in your home environment, and then other emotional stresses like loneliness, anger and frustration. These all contribute towards your stress load. So no, I'm about to talk about 3 things that you can do, and they're not going to, you know, make your kids suddenly just tidy up after themselves or your boss stop being an asshole. But they will certainly help reduce the inflammation in your body and support your immune system at a time when it is more vital than ever. And wouldn't it be nice to manage the challenges that you face in life with a little bit less overwhelm and a bit more patience? Those are some of the benefits I find when I start to press reset and I start to change some of the habits that have maybe been creeping away from me. So the first thing that I want to share with you that you can do as of today is read ingredients lists. Now this is something, if any of my clients are watching this, they'll be nodding along. It's something I encourage all of my clients to do from day one. Because do you know what? Ingredients lists do not lie. So when was the last time you actually read the ingredients of the products that you buy? I'm not talking about the amount of carbohydrates or the amount of protein or the amount of sugar, I'm talking about the list of ingredients. Now, the list of the nutritional information of a product can be very misleading because food naturally contains sugars, it naturally contains carbohydrates, and actually it's very difficult to determine the difference between the good nutrients and the added crap that you don't need. So by reading the ingredients list, you are really getting all the information that you need. And it is so shocking. I still, even though I read the packets of everything, the one time I don't, I am so shocked at the additives, preservatives, and general nasty stuff that we just don't need in our food. Salad dressings, sauces, cereals, snack bars, so much, everything, even cooked meats that you would think would just be like, I remember looking in the supermarket once at some ready cooked chicken slices and they have additives in them. It blows my mind. So if you are thinking of buying something, even maybe it's labeled healthy or organic, check the list on the back, because that is the only way you will know. You want lists that are as short as possible and only have ingredients that you recognise or that you would use to make something at home. That's a really simple way of deciding whether you want to buy that product or not. Now, the second area that is really easy to change, I say easy to change, none of this is easy, right? But the area I would encourage you to change is to eat more whole foods. Now, my personal approach to eating in mine and my family's life is to eat a diet based on whole, real foods, and that's also what I teach my clients. So this simply means at every meal, if you can try and choose more whole foods, I'll talk about what that is in a second, and less processed foods, you are going to start to feel better. Whole foods are simply what nature intended. So it's funny that we have to put a name to it because it's just food, right? But it's a way of differentiating it from the more convenient processed foods that we have really come to rely on. They contain more antioxidants, vitamins, minerals. They keep you fuller for longer, and they go a long way in supporting a healthier immune system, which is what we all want, right? Processed foods, on the other hand, have been altered in some way. They've been changed from when they were picked from the ground or carved by a butcher. You know, by nature, they have no ingredients lists. They just are what they are. And yes, there is definitely a middle ground. Some foods are more processed than others. Now, some of the more processed foods that you could keep an eye out for are things like breakfast cereals, breads, pastries, pasta, especially the white versions. You know, white versions of those things have had nearly all the nutritional value taken out of them. So at least if you are going to have something that is processed, so a bread and a pasta is processed, go for a whole wheat option. Milks, cheeses, yogurts, crisps, sausage rolls, pies and pasties, bacon, sausages, ham, salami, pate, lots of meats have been processed. Ready meals, I hate to say it, but the cakes and the sweets and the chocolates and the biscuits, fizzy drinks, alcohol, and sauces and dressings. Those are all things that are very commonly processed. So foods with long list of ingredients, or ingredients that you don't recognise, or dare I even say can't pronounce, are usually pretty processed and should try to be avoided. And as I said, the best option is to go for foods that don't have any ingredients lists at all. And I know that this isn't always possible. Trust me, I know that I am in nutrition, and yes, I might choose some of the better options more often than not, but we eat processed foods. We eat food in packets. In fact, I'm going to be doing a live Q&A maybe next week about some of the things I do buy in packets, because it is all about knowing which packets to buy. You know, sometimes buying packeted, processed, it's packeted food, let's say, that can even help our stress levels, because you don't need to, it's thinking less about what to eat, you're spending less time cooking, and right now, I'm sure many of us are short on time, I certainly am. So it's about buying the right things, switching from a shop-bought product to something that's homemade, or switching, upgrading the quality of what you've bought from the shop. That will be better for you. So I've mentioned the switching white pasta for whole wheat or spelt. Spelt is also a really good option. Just in terms of how our grains are grown, wheat has undergone a huge amount of change in the last, say, 50 years, and it's just not as good for us. We find it much harder to digest, so spelt is a much better option. Or, courgette, spiraled carrots, those kind of things. You could switch a jar of store-bought salad dressing for something homemade, very simple, extra virgin olive oil, apple cider vinegar, or maybe some lemon juice and a little bit of raw honey, maybe some seasoning, salt and pepper. You can keep it in the fridge for weeks. It's a great option. Switching your white rice for brown rice or any other whole grains. Variety is so important for our healthy diets. There are things like barley and spelt and buckwheat that are also really delicious, and it gets you a variety of grains in your diet. Or switching rice for another vegetable like grated cauliflower or broccoli is also great. You could switch fruit yogurts for a Greek yogurt with just chopped fruit in it. Switch frozen chips for maybe some oven-baked sweet potatoes, or a favourite of mine at the moment is oven-baked new potatoes. They go really soft in the middle and they are delicious, even the kids love them. And any of those chocolates that you buy, switching a Cadbury's for a 70% plus dark chocolate is going to be much, much better for you. It's been through much less processing and it's got more nutrients in it. I could talk about chocolate forever. If anyone's interested, I will talk about chocolate, the quality of chocolate on another session. The third thing is fill your plate with vegetables, and the more leafy green ones, the better. Vegetables are absolutely packed with goodness, from vitamins and minerals and cancer-fighting phytonutrients with very little calories to show for them, I should add. So did you know, this is such an amazing fact, that your body uses up almost as many calories eating and digesting vegetables as there are in the vegetables themselves? Amazing. Veggies are a great source of complex carbohydrates, which can take longer to digest. They won't cause those blood sugar spikes that sugar-laden foods do. And due to the huge abundance of fibre in vegetables, you get fuller faster, and it's almost impossible to overeat vegetables. Isn't that a nice problem to have? Is it a problem? You know what I mean. So leafy green vegetables like kale, spinach, chard, cabbage, watercress, rocket, they're all really particularly good sources of fibre. They support improved digestion and gut health, which, if you know much about, are hugely essential for a strong immune system. So hopefully you can see there are loads of benefits to eating more veggies. But why do I say half a plate? Well, it's quite simple really. The more you fill up on vegetables, the less space you will have for everything else. So it's a really easy way to improve your diet and, reduce your stress load, but without depriving yourself of those other foods that you really love. So have the steak, have the fish and chips, have the fried egg sandwich. These are all foods that I absolutely love. But by building your plate with 50% vegetables, you're automatically getting all those benefits, like improved energy levels, your digestion improves, skin, sleep, and of course, how you manage your stress. When I start to eat more vegetables without taking all the other stuff that I love away, I automatically feel better. So I may be ending on the best one. And I'm not suggesting that you do all of these things, because that in itself could be overwhelming. It's important to take a small steps approach. So just choose one of those things and do it for 5 or more days. Even just 5 days. For anyone who joined my 5-day Exhausted to Energized training last year, you would have noticed a difference. I know a lot of you reported back that you did. I've got a spring cleanse coming up in April, where we're going to be working for 5 days on a whole food cleanse to just really detoxify our bodies and just to feel lighter and happier and more focused and more energetic, less anxious. So just pick one and let me know what you try, will you? I will be back next Tuesday talking, as I said, I believe, I need to check the schedule, sorry, I should have checked before now, about the packaged foods that I buy. If there is anything else that you would like me to talk about in these Tuesday Q&As, please let me know. Please feel free to join live. I know the time might not necessarily work for everybody, but if you are here and you want to post a question, just let me know. And if you found this useful, please hit the like button so that I know. And similarly, if it's not useful, let me know. This group is for you, and I want to make sure you get the most helpful information possible. So I will see you next week.